The Chiefs' next move is coming sooner than you think, and we're going to talk about it. Good morning, Chiefs Kingdom. How we doing? It is Thursday, July 3rd. We have a daytime live stream today. We haven't done one in a minute, but it's going to be good to be with you throughout your beautiful lunches today. It's America's birthday tomorrow, so hopefully you're off work tomorrow, and this is the last day of your week. So let's go, man. Got to be excited about that. Mike, how's it going?
Pretty good. I think everybody should get a full week off for America's birthday.
I know, right?
Gotta get a birthday week bash going.
Should be at least a week off. Gonna have some fireworks tonight around these parts, and hopefully you guys will too, and have some fun. But yeah, Mike, the Chiefs, they're still a thing. It's the off season, and a lot of people are in hiding, but they are still alive and well. And camp's coming up here soon. But there's this lingering thing going around, and that is the re-signing of Trey Smith. Obviously, he's on that franchise tag here for the year, but they want to get this deal done by the deadline on July 15th. So we have about 12 days roughly till they need to get this deal done, and we're going to talk about that a little bit today.
Yeah, I feel like it's already done. I feel like it's just done. I feel like everybody's just on vacation. I don't know how long it's been done. I think they would have announced it, but I feel like it could be done any day, and they're not going to do nothing. They're not going to rush back to everybody. The agent may leak it, something like that, but I think they'll wait till they get back into camp or right before they report, something like that. But these guys are on vacation. This is their last little vacation they get. They're probably off on the beach. They're feeding alligators somewhere. I seen a picture of somebody feeding an alligator, and it wasn't even Crocky J. This team, it was Omar Norman Lott.
Omar Norman Lott. Yeah, I saw it too.
These guys are obsessed with Gators.
Hey, Rico, what's up, my man? He says Trey Smith signing on the 10th. Chiefers in the house with you. Hope you guys are doing well. And then Hippie's in here today. Melissa, well, it's definitely Bucky. That's not Melissa. What's up? Bobby, Ron, K. Wayne's in the house. What's up, man?
Let's go, baby.
And then Yogi starting it off right with a 10 bomb, Mike. He says, amen to that. Week off for America's birthday. And
off.
He put up $10 to prove that that's what needs to be happening. Good to see you, Yogi. It feels like it's been a minute, so I hope everything's going good for you.
Hope you guys have a good
back
summer.
In the swing of this thing. Yep. We're doing good, Rico, and Julia's in the house. All right, guys, let's talk about this Trey Smith stuff. Do you boys a favor and hit that like button real quick. We'll try to get a few more people in here. We'll get going.
What's up, Chris? How you doing, brother?
Yeah, Bucky, I knew that was you. I already knew it. I love that story that he sneaks on Melissa's account and watches and puts crazy comments, by the way. I told my fiance that, and she thinks it's hilarious. So
it's funny.
But Trey Smith, Mike, I have this article here. I'd like to maybe read through that just a little bit for a second. But it is an agent's take on what it will take for the Chiefs to retain star guard Trey Smith for the foreseeable future. And this article came out actually less than a day ago. So I think it was last night this came out. Let me share the screen with you guys. And
please do. I would like to see.
We'll just, browse through this article here and see what this agent has to say. No, it says the Pro Bowler who is franchise tagged has until July 15th to sign a long-term deal. Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
All right. Several Pro Bowl caliber veteran players, including Cincinnati Bengals edge rusher Trey Hendrickson, Washington Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin, and Dallas Cowboys edge rusher Micah Parsons are in line to sign new deals before the 2025 regular season kicks off. The greatest sense of urgency exists for the Kansas City Chiefs, with offensive guard Trey Smith, who was designated as a franchise player at the end of February. Okay, so July 15th, obviously everybody knows that's the deadline, all that good stuff. The Chiefs using a franchise tag on Smith was surprising. Interior offensive linemen rarely are given that designation. Smith is only the fourth time a franchise designation has been placed on an offensive guard during the last 10 years. The Commanders used franchise tags on Brandon Scherff in 2020, 2021, and Joe Thuney in 2020. And prior to those two, the last offensive guard to receive a franchise tag was Logan Mankins by the Patriots in 2011.
Patriots love guards, Steve.
They
That's
do.
what I can see.
They love tagging these guards, baby. Hey, they'll draft a random one in the first round. That's fourth round material. You never
tag
know
them 4 years later.
Usage on interior offensive linemen is so low because there aren't specific franchise tag amounts for center, guard, and tackle. The cost is the same regardless of position, which means left tackles primarily determine the number. So Smith quickly signed his franchise tender to make $23 million fully guaranteed, since this number doesn't reflect the offensive guard market. The highest paid offensive guard is Landon Dickerson. He signed a 4-year, $84 million contract extension, averaging $21 million per year with the Eagles. And salary escalators make Dickerson's deal worth as much as $87 million. Okay, and then Chiefs general manager Brett Veach made his intentions with Smith clear in April during his pre-draft process. Or pre-draft press conference, I'm sorry. Veach said there's no secret that we'd like to get Trey locked up. Smith possesses the leverage in the contract negotiations thanks to his tag amount, and the Chiefs trading Joe Thuney, first-time All-Pro left guard, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Smith, who should be hitting the open market in 2026, absent a new deal. The Chiefs will be hard-pressed to designate Smith as a franchise player for a second straight year because of the cost. Smith's franchise tag in 2026 will be $28 million, which is 120% of what he's getting this time. History suggests Smith would have a good chance to become the new salary benchmark for the offensive guards. So I'm with that, Mike. So we'll stop right there for a second. But I think that he's definitely going to get that. I think he's going to be the new highest paid guard in football, right?
Well, just said the Eagles guy got 86 total.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think it's somewhere around there. I think it's mid 80s, low right? 90s. Yeah.
What did Pretty Ricky say?
He was saying like 96 or 98.
It was like 4 years, 93, 96.
Yeah, somewhere in that range. I don't know if that's true. Look, I think it's crazy to give guards. I'm just going to say it. I love Trey Smith, but it is crazy to give guards 23 to 25 million per year. It just is, dude. It's wild. We gave Jawaan Taylor 20 million per year. And we let the other tackle the year prior walk, and he goes to the Brown. Commanders.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about
Andrew Wiley.
Yeah, there you go. Andrew Wiley. Okay. Talking about Andrew Wiley. They let him go. He signs a small contract in comparison to Jawaan Taylor. His numbers look just as good over the past 2 years. So that's playing the tackle position.
Right.
Love Trey Smith, but we are pretty deep at guard. But Brett Veach made this decision. And so now you have to live with it. I think it's wild you're going to give him 95 to 100 million. I think 85 to 90 is high. But it is what it is.
This is a huge decision by Brett Veach, and it is slightly a head scratcher, even though it shouldn't be. It's like, oh, it's Trey Smith. It's offensive line. Got to have good offensive line. He's been great. Everybody loves him. Pay the man the money, right? But maybe there's more to it than that. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But let's run back to this article real quick, try to finish it up. Hopefully it's not like a freaking book that's been written. Let's see. Let me scroll down a little bit. Fortunately for Smith, the Chiefs haven't had a problem resetting positional markets with offensive linemen. The 5-year, $80 million contract Thuney signed made him the NFL's highest paid offensive guard when that happened. Then Jawaan Taylor was the NFL's highest paid right tackle.
Right, but look how much that Taylor contract blew up in their face.
Yes and no. I mean, that's something we talked about yesterday. I think Taylor had his issues with them deciding that he couldn't do what Lane Johnson and Deion Dawkins does. He's not allowed to. He's not in that club, and throw flags on him every 2 seconds. I think that, and maybe he had a little bit of a holding problem, but that's kind of faded a little bit last year. I mean, he's literally been pretty solid at right tackle, and I mean, right now, that $80 million contract for Taylor is barely got him in the top 5 of right tackles.
Yeah, so I mean, he's not a top 5 right tackle.
He's pretty close to it. So
yeah, pretty close, and being there is not the same.
Okay, sure. I mean, I still don't think that was a good deal, but I'm just saying that market's gone up so much that it doesn't really like.
Well, Brett Veach helped to bring the market up that much.
Of course,
giving mediocre right tackles $80 million.
Yeah, true. Creed Humphrey dramatically changed the pay scale for centers last preseason. He signed a 4-year, $72 million extension, averaging $18 million per year. Humphreys $50 million guaranteed and $35 million fully guaranteed are the most for a center ever. Because of these factors, it really isn't a matter of whether Smith will become the NFL's highest paid offensive guard if he signs a long-term deal by July 15th deadline, but by how big of a margin. So they're basically saying same thing that we were just saying.
They're saying it's set in stone. He's going to get set in the market.
Yeah, he will. I almost guarantee it. Let's see where to go. I'm going to skip down just a little bit here. It says the Chiefs will find a more recent dynamics after the Indianapolis Colts massively reset the offensive guard market by 21% with Quentin Nelson's 4-year $80 million, averaging $20 million per year back in 2022. Lindstrom moved the needle by 2.5% in 23. The Falcons gave Lindstrom 5 years, $102.5 million extension, averaging $20 million per year. Dickerson got 2.43% more than Lindstrom. So that's kind of where it's going, right?
2%.
Right at that. So that kind of increase would put Smith around $23 million per year. So
there's your big one right there.
Friend,
Robert Hunt.
Friend, what are you seeing? Robert
on your
Hunt.
Next one, Robert Hunt got $63 million guaranteed in a 5-year, $100 million contract.
Yeah.
So it's going to be guaranteed money is what they're probably arguing over.
A lot of it. And you're looking at about $23 million per year, which the Pretty Ricky thing said I'm pretty positive that's where they had them, like 4 years, 93 or 94 million. I can't remember for sure. So it was very close to that. Let's see. Let's scroll down a little bit. I want to see what they're saying it's going to take here. They said an agent said something, but I don't see
no. Take nothing.
Ads.
That's just a bunch of ads. I think you passed the ending of the article.
All right, I did. That's right here. So we were just reading about Hunt. The Chiefs trying to utilize on Smith to approach use with the offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr. in 2022. When Brown was given a franchise tag, would be counterproductive at this point. Brown rejected a reported 6-year, $139 million contract at the franchise player long-term deal deadline. He would have become the league's highest paid offensive lineman at $23 million per year because of a highly inflated last year of the contract containing $44 million in 2027. We all remember that deal.
Yeah, that's why.
They gave him a bunch of money, but they put it all in the back of the contract and we're going to cut him the year before that. And he was like, nay. Yeah,
we all knew how Brett Veach was going to operate that.
Yeah, I mean, anybody could see that was kind of a bogus deal. But it did make us look better. It's like, we offered them a lot of money. Let's see. It was really $95 million over 5 years. Instead, Brown played under a $16 million franchise tag. To turn down a 4-year, $86 million contract averaging $21.5 million per year, Smith's camp would have to feel confident that he could command at least $62 million over 3 years for $20 million average next year on the open market. That's the break-even point with $21.5 million per year deal after playing 2025 season under a $23 million franchise tag. The Chiefs, using an extremely player-friendly structure, is probably the best bet to get Smith to accept a deal closer to $21.5 million per year than averaging in the vicinity of the $23 million franchise tag. So basically, all that and an agent's take is saying they're going to have to give him some kind of a player-friendly deal to get him for around $21.5 million. Otherwise, they're going to end up paying the same as they're paying on this franchise tag.
Right. Dude, NFL contracts are wild, especially the one they offered Orlando Brown. It's just wild. Like, think about this. It's like if I was like, my boy, I'll give you $1,000 to paint my room. You could paint my room for $1,000. We'll sign a 5-day contract. Okay. In day one, when you tape it up, I'll give you $50. Day 2, when you stir the paint, I'll give you $100. And then, you know what I mean? And then when you get the job done, once you're sitting back and admiring it on day 5, I'll give you $75. But I have a contract out that's going to cause me to not have to pay you the rest of it.
But you don't get to look at it the day you finish it, actually.
Right. You're not. So they're so weird how they do, and it makes no sense. But this is why a lot of these players are in it for as much as they can get guaranteed, because they know that the NFL does not care about them. It's extending the Chiefs, extending the longevity of the franchise. Nobody will care about Trey Smith in 10, 15 years. Like, that's the harsh reality of it. Like, there's going to be something new, something better. and they've got their sights set on something different. Of course, players, they go to Hall of Fame, so this and that, but in the moment, you're a flash in the pan, man. They got to get what they got to get, and you can't really blame them because these places, Chiefs included, will cut your ass in a heartbeat,
of course,
and not think twice about it.
Yeah, of course. So what are we looking at here? What do you think we're looking at? Probably, I think that 4-year around 90 to 95 million is probably where you're going to be at. Probably looking at about 20, close to 22 million probably. If I had to guess, it'd be about $22 million per year. I'd say 65 of that's going to be guaranteed.
I think he's looking at the guaranteed money. He's wanting 65 to 70 guaranteed. If he didn't get at least what Robert Hunt did, I think his agent failed because he's better than Robert Hunt.
Yeah. Kay Wayne says 5 years, 100 mil. That would be cool. If he could get a lot of guaranteed money, he might go for something like that, and that would put him at
what if you did 5 years, 100 million guaranteed, 60, 65, something like that. I don't think that's a bad deal. Right. But look, you are going to have some trouble here because, again, you're putting a lot of money into this basket.
I wanted to get to that, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
This is kind of the other way of looking at things. Like, obviously, everybody loves Trey Smith and wants to keep him. But when you're really looking at it, could this end up being a blunder on Brett Veach's part, trying to maintain this roster throughout a dynasty and keep this roster at its highest level throughout Patrick Mahomes' prime and after that? Do you think this could end up being a blunder that he paid a guard this much money when Brett Veach is always looking for places to stay cheap? Right? Because you have other guys coming up.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a lot. We talked about this last night in a good conversation with Lance from The Spoken that'll be coming out sometime soon. But you have to pay Trent McDuffie. You have to pay George Karlaftis. You have to pay all these other guys. And every year it's like that. It never stops. There's always guys you got to sign back, especially when you're doing what the Chiefs are doing, and that's trying to draft well. And so far, they're having a good run over the last, say, 5, 6, 7 years in the draft, with the exception of maybe Felix Anudike-Uzomah and Sky Moore. But we've hit on a lot of players. So every year, I mean, they just had to re-sign Nick Bolton for big money.
Yeah.
Do you think that this could end up being one of those things where it's like, damn, we just paid all this money to a guard, a position that you could fill? We could have filled it pretty easy at the end of the first round this year. Obviously, Josh Simmons was not, you were not in a position to pass up Josh Simmons, right? But they also, I think it was, there was a guard from Alabama, I think, that came out late in the first round. There were some guys that you could get to replace Trey Smith. Like you said, that we had some guys in the tank that could maybe play that position, not at the level of Trey Smith. But do you think that this could end up being a thing where it's like, man, maybe they should not have paid a guard and set the market?
Look, again, I'm going to put this caveat on here. I'm going to put this little asterisk. I really do like Trey Smith. And I think Trey Smith, I want to see him in a Chiefs uniform. The problem is, you fall in love with somebody and you want to do right by somebody that you really like, but they may not necessarily be worth what you're going to have to do. And look, again, it's not on Trey Smith to go try to get himself some money. This dude should have been drafted in the second, third round, at the latest, and something come out because of his, he had like a blood thing or something, and he gets pushed all the way to the end, and the Chiefs got a steal on him. They really did. But if you just literally look at his numbers, it wasn't the most clinical protection of Patrick Mahomes you ever seen in your life. Who was the number one pass blocker on the team last year when it was all said and done? It was not, and I'm talking just guards, it was not Trey Smith. It was Joe Thuney. And a lot of people said, oh, well, Joe Thuney, you got to get rid of him. He's old. Well, his old ass was better at pass blocking last year. He scored a lot higher than Trey Smith scored. I want to say Thuney's was an 80, somewhere around that, and Trey Smith was a 65.7 pass block grade. He finished 29th out of every guard that played at least 50% of their snaps. So that's what I'm saying. Do you give a guy that you say you're going to protect Mahomes because our running game is hit or miss, and he don't call the run. We just need to protect Patrick Mahomes. So you're going to reset the market with a guy that I love again, but the 29th highest rated guard pass blocking in the league. That's what you're going to do. What the hell are you setting this up for in 5 years? You're going to start playing. You're going to pay punters $200 million.
Yeah, I mean, the market's going to keep going up, right? And they keep raising the salary cap every season. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I mean, immediately, I think everybody can agree, probably most people in the chat, you want him here. Like, you want Trey. Everybody wants Trey. I
like Trey Smith.
So, yeah. And then another thing is the offensive line's been a sore spot for the Chiefs, obviously. And I think they want to do what they can to make sure that doesn't continue to be a problem. And something else that we had talked about, Mike,
can I make one more point?
Yeah, go ahead.
People don't like Jawaan Taylor because of his penalties. Don't like him because of his penalties. Trey Smith was top 5 in the NFL out of all guards and penalties last year. He had 11, and 2 were declined. So he actually had 13 penalties, which would have led all of football besides Las Vegas Jackson Powers Johnson, who was a rookie last year, and Patrick McCarry from Baltimore. Trey Smith led all guards in penalties.
So do you think this is some of the conversations that Brett would be having with the agent? Like, do you think in the background, do you think this is like
perception of players, Steve? Perception of players in Chiefs Kingdom. Like, people don't like Josh Williams because he had 5 penalties on special teams.
Well, yes. I mean, we know that a majority of people are going to pick and choose favorites.
Right. And I'm not saying that Trey Smith's not a way better player at his position, but I'm just trying to say, like, these dudes have, like, there's some down to everybody. Like, not everybody's perfect, but I'm just trying to say, like, you got to pick and choose where you want to pay that money.
Well, just take Trey Smith, take his name and take what you feel about Trey Smith out of the equation. Let's just say we're going to pay a guard. We're paying a guard.
We're paying a guard, and you give me Trey Smith's stats and those numbers, I'm not paying it.
Okay, well, I'm not even worried about the numbers. I just mean in general. You're going to reset the market for a guard when you're in the middle of a dynasty run, and you have a lot of people to pay a lot of money to.
Right, dude. You're paying. You just said it. You're paying a lot of people a lot of money.
Right. So, and then on the opposite end of the spectrum, like I said, you got to shore up that offensive line. It's been an issue. If you can get lucky and Josh Simmons comes off that injury and he is your franchise left tackle, because, I mean, honestly, if he's healthy, I think he's going to be. So there's that. And then say Kingsley pans out at left guard, and the left side of the line is shored up for the next, 3-4 years. And you don't have to worry about that, right? Until that time comes. And then you have Jawaan Taylor or you just got Jalen Moore. So maybe after this year, it could be him. Who knows? Over on the right side. And you've got Trey Smith there long-term, and Creed's wrapped up. So all of a sudden you have the whole offensive line taken care of. It should be good, should be solid, maybe one of the top 3 to 5 in the entire league. And you have that set up for the foreseeable future, 3-4 years. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's one less thing to worry about. So I see the positives. And then on your side of it, it's like, if you pay a guard this much money, who is that going to hurt next year in contract negotiations? Which one are you going to have to let go? Trent McDuffie? You're going to have to trade him? Are you going to have to trade him, get rid of him?
Steve, they cannot afford to set the market at corner, set the market at guard. Right. They've already put Jawaan Taylor and set his market.
And then you got to pay George Karlaftis next year. That's also a huge piece.
You got to pay Karlaftis. He's not going to set the market, but he's going to want a big chunk.
Is the Chiefs signing Trey Smith to a huge deal here and paying him $21 to $23 million a year? Is that going to be the ticket out of Kansas City for George Karlaftis or Trent McDuffie? Are they going to have to sacrifice one of those two because of this deal?
Look, nobody wants to say that, but the harsh reality is you cannot pay everyone. And somebody is going to get left off. And it may just be a product of who comes to the table first and who procrastinates.
Right.
But Lance said this last night. He was like,
look, we've seen two sides of this. We in the last couple of videos we've recorded with guests, we had Marcus Dash from Chief Concerns. So be on the lookout for that one. And we also had Lance from The Spoken. They're on opposite ends of that. So if you could look at it from that lens, and it's like, is it going to be Trent McDuffie or George Karlaftis? that gets kicked out of here because we're signing a guard to $100 million deal. They were on opposite ends of that. Lance seems to think that they're going to get rid of McDuffie, that they're not ever going to pay a corner, even if they invested first-round draft pick in him.
Steve,
he thinks that
the Chiefs are always under.
So George Karlaftis was going to take the hit.
The Chiefs are always under this thing to where you pay Patrick Mahomes, you pay Travis Kelce, even though he doesn't set the market. I think he's underpaid. But you pay certain players and then you draft to build the defense. And that's what they did. That's how we got Karlaftis, McDuffie, Leo, Jaden Hicks, Brian Cook, Jalen Watson, Josh Williams, Najee Johnson. You just go down the board here. George Karlaftis. This is how we got all these guys. This is how we got our full defense. And I mean, 4 years ago, they drafted Nick Bolton. And nobody thought he was good enough to get paid, but he gets paid. That came out of nowhere in the offseason. He got paid too. How many guys on the defense can they pay and still pay the guys on the offense? You've got to pick and choose. So are we starting to get to a point where the defense panned out? And the defense, hey, it's like, dude, we hit a lot of good players over there. Let's just extend them out. They've been a top 5 unit. And now you got to get cheap on the offensive side. Is that how it's going to roll? And if that's the case, how do you pay all these offensive linemen you're wanting to pay? You just paid more in the offseason to play left tackle, and this dude might not even start over the rookie.
Right. And I mean, there's a good chance of that too. As long as Josh Simmons is healthy, I feel like he could definitely win that job. So, I'm not critiquing anything Brett Veach is doing. I'm sure they've got a nice plan in place. Yeah. I'm just saying that he's steps ahead of where we're at.
But from a fan's perspective, I think what I'm trying to get at is the Chiefs do not have infinite money and infinite cap. Somebody is going to get it down the line. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody's going to get the axe down the line, and it may be somebody that people really like. It could be another L'Jarius Sneed situation, sadly.
Yeah, for sure. I tend to think that they're going to try to hang on to Trent McDuffie because of what they've invested in him. He's a top 3 corner in football. But here's the thing. Him being a top 3 corner in football, statistically, PFF said that he basically was second in all statistics for 2 out of the last 3 seasons. That's a good bargaining chip now, isn't it? Like, right. Hey, we have a top 3 corner in football. Who wants them? Who's giving us, a good pick?
Right.
And,
Steve Kevin here from Facebook. Shout out Facebook. He says there's no way we can keep both George and Trent. So it's more likely we lose both than keep both. So like you're saying, if they're wanting to keep Trent McDuffie, then how are you going to pay George too? And if you do, how are you paying the offense? Rashee Rice has got a big contract coming up soon too. Like, are we just going to cut ties with him because of his legal trouble? Or do you think that he's not going to garner as much money as a top tier wide receiver because of that?
Well, that's the thing. If Rashee Rice comes out this season and performs the way he was performing before his injury last year, then that becomes a huge thing, right? Because you don't want to get rid of that guy. Right. So, there's a lot of things that are coming up.
Dude, this is the sad part of being good. Is because you have to continue. You have to continue to lose guys you really like, or you got to make cuts and you got to find other things.
Right. Peter says it's business. You take chances. Absolutely, you take chances. Do you take the chance on a guard? I guess that's kind of the conversation here. Is guard that high a priority of a position to where you pay a lot of money to that, as opposed to maybe some other positions, which we've mentioned, edge rusher and cornerback. Real quick, just to kind of keep all that in mind, everybody. We'd like to hear your opinions on that. We've seen a couple in the chat. Yuck FoodTube says that George will be gone, that Gelati's his replacement. We've heard that side of it. And then, of course, some people think that we won't pay Trent, that he's going to be too expensive. Obviously, he's a top 3 cornerback in the league, and we can get something out of him. There's lots of different perspectives there. But I also see in the chat, and this is something I want to talk about for, let's just give it a few minutes. But Jawaan Taylor, I see Rob Miller in the chat says he can't wait till Taylor's off the team. And then there was someone that actually agreed with him and talked about how inconsistent he was. I just want to talk about Jawaan Taylor for a second. And this is a guy that everyone thinks this is his last year in Kansas City. I mean, the way the contract's set up, if there's no new contract, this is his last year in Kansas City.
Yeah, they can't afford to pay him what they put at the end.
This is their out after that. Now, On the other hand, they could restructure Jawan Taylor. They could restructure his contract where he's making less per season and keep him because he is a good right tackle. A lot of people, there's a lot of hate for Jawan Taylor that might be unwarranted. And that's what I wanted to talk about for a minute. So Jawan Taylor, he's been pretty solid right tackle. Now there's a stain on his name because of Chris Collinsworth. Got bored in the first game of the season against the Detroit Lions 2 years ago and decided to start pointing out, he's moving early because there's nothing else to talk about. And he basically time snaps the same way everybody else in the league does. Lane Johnson does it, and he's a genius. He's great. He times everything perfect. He's the best to ever do it. Deion Dawkins does it. He's great. He's a great offensive lineman. And then there's Jawan Taylor, who did it in Jacksonville. No one cared. But he does it with Kansas City, and all of a sudden it's awful, it's terrible, and he's false start. It's a false start every time, right? So I think a lot of the penalties thing was a little unwarranted. I think that it was kind of them picking on him to an extent. He was just like the poster child for that, right? It was just something to talk about. Something got overblown. It's something that the league just started really getting ticky-tacky about. And I think you saw that fade off in the last year, right? It wasn't as bad last season. Most of the time, if you bring up Jawan Taylor, what do people say? What's their knock on Jawan Taylor? Penalties, 100%. And this is something you mentioned earlier, talking about, I think, like Josh Williams, and then you brought up the penalties for Trey Smith. And I think it's one of those things people just kind of use that as an excuse, right? If you look at the penalties from last season, the most penalized offensive lineman in the entire league last season, where would you expect to see Jawan Taylor on that, since it's such a detriment to his game?
I mean, he's got to be top 2, like 3, probably, right?
No, and that's the thing about it. That's what everybody thinks. I think that's what you immediately go to is like, this guy just gets penalties. He's terrible. So no, he's not even in the top 10, brother. If you go look at the most penalties by offensive linemen last year, Tyler Guyton was at the top, which was a rookie for Dallas. Do you know the number 2 most penalized offensive lineman in this league is somebody that a lot of our fan bases bang the table to go get
Laremy
for years now. Laremy Tunsil is the number 2 most penalized guy in the entire league. Spencer Brown from Buffalo. Fuanga, a rookie with New Orleans, was number 4.
Yeah, but I don't know where you're looking, but I'm on PFF, and PFF says Jawan Taylor had 19 penalties. Spencer Brown had 17. So where are you looking?
This is straight from Pro Football Reference, 2024 lineman penalties.
So look, they don't even look. The statistical places can't even decide where the penalties go because there's a discrepancy.
I bet it depends. Maybe they're talking about, or they're not counting declines, or they are.
No, with declines, Jawan Taylor would have 22, and Spencer Brown would have 20.
No idea what you're looking at because it's nothing close.
Looking at penalties.
Right. Yeah. So here it's Jawan Taylor is probably about, let's see, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. He's 16th in the league with 9 penalties last year, through 17 games. Let's see, he had 3 holding, 5 false starts for 9 penalties through 17 games. 16 games, sorry. So that's what I'm looking at, if you're so inclined. ProFootballReference.com, 2024 offensive lineman penalties. Right ahead of him was Ronnie Stanley. Ronnie Stanley was ahead of him. Broderick Jones ahead of him. Patrick McCarry, J.C. Latham, Deion Dawkins, Garrett Bowles, Cam Robinson, Jackson Powers Johnson, which you mentioned earlier, Trevor Penning. 16th.
How
is where they have him.
How are these sites so different on their rankings and their penalties?
Well, how many penalties were you saying for him?
Jawan Taylor is showing he had 19 penalties. They declined 3.
19 penalties in the season last year.
Yeah, and declined 3.
Yeah, they're saying 9 here, so that's a huge discrepancy.
I've got it on season 2024 regular plus postseason.
Same. Mine don't have. I don't know if this one has postseason on it.
So he got 10 in the postseason.
He did not get 10 in the postseason. So yeah, I don't know. Don't know, man. But that's what I was going by.
I think it's look. I think if I had to go with one, I think I believe PFF. You cannot tell me Jawaan Taylor's not the top 5 people in penalties.
No, he's 16th according to Pro Football Reference.
I'm not buying that.
Let's go to a third reference. Let's see what happens.
I just don't feel like that's right.
You think 19 penalties is right though? That sounds excessive.
100%. Laramie Tunsil's got 19. Tyler Guyton's showing 18. Spencer Brown's showing 17. Like, it's got all the guys you're saying, but the numbers are jacked up in comparison to what this PFF is saying.
I mean, overall, all penalties out of all teams, the Chiefs were 15th in the league last season. So, I mean, they're right in the middle of the pack. They only had 94 penalties on them the entire season. So you're thinking that Jawaan Taylor accounted for 20% of the penalties by himself?
Yeah, and then Josh Williams had the rest of them.
Yeah. I don't know about that either. Let's see. We need a third reference spot here, right? A third reference point. So let's go by this one. There's NFLpenalties.com. Surely to God, if their whole website's about it, they can get it right? Let's check this out. Offensive linemen. They see by their count, Laramie Tunsil's number 1, Tyler Guyton's number 2. So those two are backwards. This list looks exactly like the other one I was looking at, the Pro Football Reference. Tunsil, Guyton, Taylor is third on this one. Okay, never mind. Yeah, this is confusing. Oh, this one's counting playoffs. There's no way he got 10 in the playoffs. That can't be right.
Let me take playoffs off of mine and just go to regular season and see how it changes.
There's no way this dude got 10 penalties in the playoffs. I just don't see. I mean, that's
no. If I take it down to just regular, it still shows Tunsil at 19. He had 2 declines, so he actually had 21 flags on him. Tyler Guyton goes to 22 flags, but they only accepted 18. And then Jawaan Taylor 17, and they declined 3. So 17 and 3, and then if I put it back on playoffs.
So you had Jawaan Taylor at number 3 without the playoffs?
Yeah. In the playoffs, he only had 2 penalties.
Okay, well, this website has them at 3 too. So I think maybe that, and this was without playoffs, so maybe that's right. So Jawaan Taylor's third in the league. He's third in the league, behind Laramie Tunsil and Tyler Guyton.
Yeah, I mean he's a penalty machine.
He's the exact numbers of Dion Dawkins. The only difference is his was for 4 more yards of penalties.
So I mean, look, you got to ask yourself then, penalties. If the penalties are cleaned up, let's say this year he comes in and he goes from 19 penalties down to, let's just say he cuts it in half. He gets down to like 10 penalties. Is that enough to warrant like a restructure and to bring him back for a longer period? Because, I mean, his actual blocking and his efficiency grade isn't too bad if you knock the penalties out.
That was my point. That was the point I was trying to make. So that's the biggest knock on him. He's not a bad right tackle. We know this. Like he's above average right tackle. But it's how much do you want to put that into, that penalties basket? Like how much are you putting into that? Because I would dare to say that if you had Laramie Tunsil as your left tackle, you wouldn't complain about him having all these penalties. If you had Dion Dawkins, Buffalo's tackle, I don't think you would be complaining about the penalties. If you had Ronnie Stanley, who everybody was banging the table for in the offseason, no one would complain about the penalties he had, and he's right behind Jawaan Taylor and Dion Dawkins. My point is, why is it such a bad thing for Jawaan Taylor, but all these other top tier tackles in the league, no one cares?
Well, I think you got to start looking at the
and I understand that he's not. I understand that he's not in the same echelon.
Right. So
there's
you answered your own question. It's the efficiency of it. So Laramie Tunsil is a 98.3% efficiency rating. Jawaan Taylor is not even top 100 in efficiency.
Well, are all these guys? So obviously Laramie Tunsil, but I mean, you're talking, like I said, Ronnie Stanley, Dion Dawkins, Garrett Bowles, like these guys, I would highly doubt that their efficiency rating is nearly as high as that.
Creed, it's amazing how good Creed is. A 99.5% efficiency rating. He leads all offensive linemen, bro. It's insane.
Creed's insane.
But to your point, Lane Johnson only had 6 penalties last year. He has a 98.8% efficiency rating as right tackle.
Right, and these are like the unicorns, right? These are the the best of the best in the league.
Okay, so I'm trying to answer your question. So let's just roll down. Laramie Tunsil, he's a left tackle, 98.3, but he's got all the penalties. So you are right. Spencer Brown, he ended up having 19 penalties.
Yeah, he's fourth.
His efficiency rating is a 98.2. So he's pretty high. Jordan Mailata, a 98. Let's see. Let me see if I can find Jawaan Taylor. I'm just going down the list. Dion Dawkins, that was one you named, right?
Yes.
97.7 efficiency rating. Still yet to have found our boy here, Jawaan Taylor.
What about Ronnie Stanley? Do you see him anywhere? So Jawaan Taylor is going to be in the same ballpark as penalty-wise as Dion Dawkins, Spencer Brown, Ronnie Stanley.
Jawaan Taylor ranked 107th out of all offensive linemen, 96.6 efficiency rating. And it's wild when you say 98 to a 96. It don't look very bad. But the fact is you've got 107 players. Right? You've got 107 players between a 98 and a 96. So
you're splitting hairs here.
You are, but the thing about it is we all know that offense has a big advantage over a defensive player. So an efficiency rating just means out of 100 snaps, he's going to win 96 of them, which is good, but that's also 4 hits on Mahomes, 4 whatever, and then Creed's going to lose 1 out of them.
Right. Yeah, man. I don't know, that's something to talk about, though. But we got Warpaint coming in here with the 5 gifted memberships. Let's freaking go, Warpaint. If you get one of those memberships, make sure to thank him in the chat. Put some legendaries in the chat for Warpaint. Let's freaking go. Appreciate the support, brother. Yeah, so just to touch on that just a little bit. So Jawaan Taylor, I guess ultimately everyone thinks he's 100% gone at the end of this season. And like I said, if he stays on this contract, he is. But do you think that's a restructured contract that the Chiefs could be looking at? Because if they're wanting to make sure that their offensive line is top tier and they're willing to pay a guard $20 million a year, which is what Jawaan Taylor's making at right tackle as an overpaid right tackle, do they look at restructuring him and keeping him longer? Because he's only 26 years old. He's a young guy.
I don't think it's off the table. A lot of people just think he's gone. If he don't get better on penalties and he doesn't want to come off the contract or whatever, then it's just one of those things where they're not going to redo it. But if he gets better on penalties and he's got a better grasp of the offense and he doesn't turn himself into a drive killer this year and he gets better, I think it's on the table. I really do, but this is one of those things where it's like you can't read Brett Veach's mind, and we definitely can't predict Jawaan Taylor's season because last year we all thought he would have got a little bit better with penalties, and he really didn't. He kind of just done the same thing again. So, I mean, he got a little better. I think he was maybe 3 or 4 or 5, 6 penalties better.
There are a lot of factors that play into that too, and Peter Ortiz says 98 to 96% is minute, by the way. So he says, it's a fine line there as far as the efficiency rating and stuff goes. But there are a lot of things that go into the penalties of Jawaan Taylor. And one that we've talked about before too, and Jason Dunn from Chief Concerns has brought up, is the fact that Trey Smith, the guy that we're talking about paying $20 million to, has been the source of some illegal formation penalties that have been tacked on to Jawaan Taylor. Because a guard is supposed to line up to the center, the tackle is supposed to line up to the guard.
Right.
There were times where
Jawaan Taylor was lining
right. He's lining up to Trey Smith, and then he gets flagged for
Trey Smith sets too deep sometimes
because he's too deep.
Him to set deep.
Absolutely. So if you say there's a handful of penalties in there for that, because there were some illegal formation penalties on Taylor last year.
Look, to Peter's point too, and I'll say this: 98 to 96 is minute. But let's just ask yourself this. Jawaan Taylor was a 96. So where do you think Wanya Morris sits as an efficiency rating?
What, 94?
A 95. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's a thin line there, right?
It's all a very thin line. But if Wanya sits at a 95 and people's like, well, that's not too far off from a 98. Well, we've seen on the field how far off that is, because over the course of 2 games, that's an extra 6-10, lost reps.
Did Wanya get many snaps at right tackle?
I don't know what Wanya got at right tackle. I can look.
You know, it makes you wonder, if a guy like that could come in and fill in for that position too. And obviously they have Jalen Moore on contract for 2 years, and then you still got Wanya.
He got 20 versus the Texans in the playoffs. I don't know why or how. I think that's when Jawaan Taylor got injured a little bit. He had 20, and he actually give up zeros. He blanked across the board with a 100% efficiency rating. And then at 32, he had 32 versus Denver week 18. No, it wasn't the playoff game. It was week 16. So week 16 and then week 18 versus Denver, he had 32. And he give up 2 pressures, 2 hurries. But he also played 2 snaps at left tackle. So assuming that he didn't lose both snaps at left tackle, which I really cannot assume that with Wanya.
Right. Well, just to kind of sum up the entire conversation, Trey Smith, if he came in late, they got to get this deal done by July 15th. So it's coming sooner than later. And he's kind of looking at about $21.5 million per year, probably a 4 or 5 year deal. So a big deal is getting ready to take place for a guard for the Chiefs. And I guess the conversation came up with Jawaan Taylor and some other guys because, hey, if you're going all in on offensive line and you're going to pay a guard that much money, then you're going all in on offensive line. So you might as well do it across the board. So could someone like a Jawaan Taylor be looking at a restructure instead of just being cut after this season? Could you be looking at another off-season signing? I have no idea, but I do feel like that if Jawaan Taylor's gone at that right tackle position, it's going to have to be filled in, and it's going to have to be filled in well because you've invested so much in the rest of the offensive line. Now, this is all hinging on Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia as young football players being able to hold down that left side of the line. But if they can, you're solid there. And the only question comes in at right tackle after this season. So that's kind of what we were talking about. If you missed any of it, you can go back. But appreciate you guys being here. Do us a quick favor. Hit the like button if you haven't. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you should do that. The season's getting ready to kick off here soon. Camps are getting ready to start, and it's just going to be all downhill from there. So definitely hit that sub button. Come along for the ride. If you're not a member and you didn't get a membership for free earlier, when Warpaint gave some out, you can go to join.allchiefedup.com and become a member of the channel. It's just $4.99 a month, and we got a lot of stuff in store for you guys as well. But I want to switch it up a little bit here, and our boy JCP did it just for me with the 5 bomb. He says, I've heard a lot of talk about Nico Remigio losing his spot to Thornton or Badger. Do you guys think Remigio or the other two have more upside? So this is a good segue into just switching the subject a little bit to other camp battles that are coming up. And the wide receiver one's going to be a very intriguing one. And we've talked about it quite a bit, Mike. But there's 5 guys that are a lock on this roster. And if Andy's only taken 6 receivers, that only leaves room for 1 more.
Steve,
if he does go
don't
7,
say 5 guys this close to lunchtime.
Are you hungry?
If you say 5 guys, I'm going to want a cheeseburger, bro. Don't say it.
Yeah, calm down a little bit. But yeah, if he takes 7, it's only 2 guys that they get to take.
Yeah.
Nico Remigio was on the roster last year. He's a good return man. Everybody knows it. And he did very, very well last year. So there are some people that think that he's going to make this roster just off special teams alone. But you have other guys in the locker room that are getting a lot of hype with Thornton, Elijah Badger, Magdalena. There's some other guys there. And then, of course, you still have your Sky Moore and your Justin Ross, who are forever lingering around that edge of the roster.
Yeah.
There's lots of different ways that could go there. So let's answer JCP's question first and foremost. Who do you think has more upside out of Thornton, Badger, and Remigio? And my answer to this one, and this is pure speculation because you haven't seen anything from these guys as far as offensive football goes. You've seen Remigio in the return game. Elijah Badger, obviously a rookie UDFA. I think Tyquan Thornton has more upside than the other 2. And here's my reasoning. This guy was actually drafted. He runs a 4.2 40, maybe a 4.3, but super fast, good size. And a lot of people expect a lot out of him as a receiver in the NFL. And has he done that yet? No. But he does have some games under his belt. He's got some experience in the NFL. He just happened to be with the Patriots and Mac Jones. So, I mean, it's really hard to know what he can do. So just off of what I'm hearing about Tyquan Thornton, what I know about his college career, I think that he's got more upside than Badger and Remigio. And you can argue that because Badger went nuts at Florida last year. Super athletic kid. He runs like a 4.3 40 as well. I think maybe a 4.4, but they're all fast in their own right. Nico's probably the least athletic of the three. What do you think, Mike? I think Thornton's probably the guy with the most upside, in my opinion. What about yours?
To me, it's hard to say. Thornton was a second-round pick, okay, and he was selected. He was the one that Bill Belichick traded up with the Chiefs for, was to get Tyquan Thornton, and we accepted that trade and traded back and took Sky Moore, right? And now both of these guys are right here on the same roster, on the same team. I can't tell you who's got the most upside here, in my opinion, because, like you said, we've not seen anybody do anything. Now, here's what I will say. Elijah Badger's got really good potential, as in his college metrics and everything look pretty good. He's very athletic, but he's not even played an NFL game. You can't say that about Thornton and Remigio, so I think I have to put Badger at 3. So the thing about Thornton, he's played in an NFL game on Sunday, and so has Remigio, but Remigio done the majority of his great work outside of special teams return game. He did it in the preseason last year. So I think I would have to put Thornton at just a little bit higher than Remigio, and then probably Badger. But the thing about it is Remigio actually did look really good in the preseason last year and a little bit the year before. I would like to see him get some snaps on the offensive side of the ball.
That's the problem. I mean, honestly, when you were talking about these three guys and even Sky Moore, Justin Ross, Magdalena, some of the other guys that are on the roster, Jason Brownlee.
Brownlee's not bad either.
That's what I'm saying, but there's a very, very small space for them on this bus. There's already 2 people in that seat, and they're going to have to squeeze one ass cheek in this offense, right? Because, I mean, you're already looking at Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown. They're going to be on the field the majority of the time. You got Juju Smith-Schuster, the veteran that's not going to go anywhere, the reliable old guy, even though he's not old. And then you got Jalen Royals coming in that they just drafted. He's making the squad too. So they're going to get the bulk of that, the offensive snaps. So whoever we're talking about in this 6th, 7th spot, they're not going to see the field a whole lot. So when they do get their opportunities, they are really going to have to cash in. And my thing is a lot of people have pointed out that Nico, he's one of the better return men we've had in years. Like, I feel like this last season, we've seen some more exciting kickoff returns than we have in a minute. I think, but here's the thing. I think a lot of these other guys are special teams guys too. I don't think this season, you've heard it a lot in the last few, but I don't think, and I'm sure it'll be said in pressers and stuff like that throughout camp, especially when Dave Toub gets up there. But I do not think that special teams alone is getting anybody on this roster this season.
Yeah.
I think it's too deep. I think there's too many guys that can do it. And I don't think being a return man is going to get you on the 53-man roster. I think getting you on the 53-man roster is going to be, hey, you're a return man, and you're going to contribute to this offense. And that's the big question. Who out of these 3 can actually get some snaps on the field, on the offense, and produce? So, I mean, it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be super interesting because, I mean, we just got Brashard Smith. If he makes the team, he's a return guy. We just got Noel Williams in the draft. If he makes the team, he's a return guy. These are guys that are going to be contributing on, the offensive defensive side of the ball.
Dave Toub's already said that Xavier Worthy may return punts.
Exactly. Now, do you want to take that risk with him, as small as he is? Maybe risking injury to put him on that position?
I think you do it in select situations, maybe. I don't think I do it all the time. Steve, the thing about Elijah Badger I'd like to talk about, though, is that Elijah Badger at Florida was a very good wide receiver. Like, he was pretty solid. Towards the end of the draft process, the other wide receiver, Chimdike, he like ran super fast. He kind of took over, and he actually got drafted. But Elijah Badger did a lot of his dirty work in the middle of the field. he was very much Florida's Rashee Rice. He's kind of built like Rashee Rice. They're both 6'1". I think Rashee Rice is over 200 slightly. I would say Elijah Badger's like 195-ish or something like that. But they're pretty similar. I think that's why they brought their games in. And the thing about Badger, he didn't even drop a pass in 2024. So he's got really good hands. He brings return ability. It wouldn't surprise me if he didn't sneak on the roster. But then again, we're almost doing the same thing with the Tyreek Hill thing we were doing years ago, trying to replace Tyreek. When Tyreek went out, it was draft this guy. He looks like Tyreek. Draft him. He looks like Tyreek. Well, when Rashee Rice got injured last year, now it looks like we're all trying to fill in Rashee Rice replacements over and over. You draft Jalen Royals. He's the next Rashee Rice. Look at him, his game. Elijah Badger looks just like Rashee Rice. You can't really have that many Rashee Rices on the team if Rashee Rice is on the team. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you cannot take three guys that look like Rashee Rice into a receiver room that maybe only is 5 or 6 deep. You just can't do it. So I honestly think Thornton, in my opinion, unless he has a big preseason, I think he's just going to be an off-season hype guy like that we get every single year.
Potentially, but I don't think he falls into the category you're talking about either.
He don't as of yet. You wait till they get to St. Joe and he puts up 3 or 4 big plays in a row and you're going to get the Justin Ross treatment. I would think it's Remigio's spot to lose because he was on the team last year.
Agreed, but I think to your point, I don't think Tyquan Thornton is any of those guys. He's not in that vein of guy like receiver. He's not Justin Ross. He's not Rashee Rice. He's something completely different.
He's not. He's a field stretcher. He's more of like an MVS.
Exactly. He's more of an MVS type guy. Now, as far as catching the ball, it's probably, if I had to guess, he's probably better at catching the ball than MVS. It don't take a whole lot.
Who's not?
But, I think he's more in that. So, I mean, appreciate the 5-bomb, JCP. But, yeah, if Andy wants that field stretcher, if he just wants a guy running to the damn end zone every play and just stretching that field out.
So how many wide receivers are they taking, if you had to guess right now? Are they really going to go back and take 7 again? Or do you think that they cut it down this year?
Did they take 7 last year? I know they did 2 years ago.
I think they did. I think they've taken 7 2 years in a row.
If they've done it for 2 years in a row, then I'd say.
But again, they only took 2 running backs last year.
And Carson Steele. That's 3 running backs, brother.
Yeah, but they counted him as a fullback, so I'm just trying to say.
Yeah, but look, man, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. I mean, he's a running back. This year it's different. Like you said, that room counting him, they could take 5, which is wild. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a tough one for Carson Steele or Elijah Mitchell.
Well, again, if you just say 3, but if you just up it to just 4,
I think it's safe to say 6 receivers. You're going to get at least 6. So let's just stop at 6. And if you're stopping at 6,
who's number 6?
One more guy. Exactly.
Number 6 is Sky Moore.
You're joking. People are going to pass out. I understand that you're joking, but that's a possibility.
I'm not joking. Number 6 is Sky Moore right now. In Andy Reid's eyes, he is number 6 as we sit.
Oh, absolutely. Before camp, absolutely. He's right there. I guarantee
he may even be number 5.
Guarantee it, boy.
Andy could see him more valuable to the team this year as even a Jalen Royals because he knows the offense better.
Now you're getting a little crazy with it.
Am I? I'm not saying he's better.
Now you're getting a little crazy.
I'm just saying that, hey, you might trust Sky Moore over a rookie in some situations.
Speaking of Sky Moore, do you think they cut him in the next 15 days?
I don't think they cut him. I think Andy's going to sit here and let him make this team again. I'm having the worst PTSD over this situation. It's going to happen again. I can almost guarantee it that this is what's going to happen again. They're going to find a way to get Sky Moore on this roster.
I'm not saying that you're wrong, but
I want to be wrong.
Yeah. I think everybody's had enough, right? I mean, we stuck up for the guy for his first 2 seasons. The third one, when you fail on your 3rd season, then, bro, you're on your own. Like, you're on your own, man. So, there's no excusing the lack of production from him now.
Chase Evans says, Mike, do you drive a motorcycle? No, I sure don't, man.
It's a good thing he doesn't.
No, I don't drive a motorcycle, my boy.
Yeah, man, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be super interesting. That's going to be one of the funnest things to watch throughout camp. Obviously, it's a flashy position. It's the offense. They're going to highlight the pass a lot in camp. They already have been. So, yeah, it's going to be fun to see what happens with the receivers. But that 6th spot there, man, it's going to be tight. It's going to be very, very tight.
Can you just imagine all the talent we're having to I don't want to say throw it away because it goes to the practice squad, right? But people can poach practice squad. It's just wild that Justin Ross has made this team a few times, I think. At least once he's made it. He's made the outright 53. And we're not even talking about him making the team because we are so deep at wide receiver.
It's just right. It's wild. Yeah, for sure. Peter Ortiz with a freaking 25. Let's go, Peter. Appreciate you, my man. He says, Sky no more. I think he's gone.
I hope.
Well, okay, so a lot of you all probably saw our video we put out with ex-Chiefs wide receiver Garrett Dieter. He said that if the Chiefs could do this kid any favors, it's to cut him before camp, let him go somewhere else and see if he can succeed in a different system. Because he kind of said the same thing that we've been saying for 2-3 years now. Sky Moore's got the tools. He could be a good receiver, but he's not going to be in this system. It's apparent. They're not the usage of him, the way they have to use him, it does not fit his game. He might be able to go to another team and succeed in a different role, but it's not happening here. So if the Chiefs were going to do him any favors, it's cut him before camp this season and let him go on. And do you think that we see that next couple of weeks? I think,
Steve, we're 2 weeks honestly, out. Do you see that happening? No.
Well, I don't. But I wouldn't be super surprised if it happened either. Like maybe you could wake up one day and that'd be like the big news everybody's excited about. Like,
hey, they could trade him to the Steelers. Steelers are apparently just out here going.
That's another thing.
Wild.
You just cut him. Do you think there's got to be a team out there that thinks like, hey man, this kid has all these tools and he's that good of a receiver, but he's never done anything. Maybe we can get him for cheap. Maybe they pull a Brett Veach type deal. Let's see if we can get this guy for a 7th round pick, 6th round pick, what have you. And see if we can make something out of him. Because, I mean, honestly, if you were a GM of another team, would you giving away a 7th round pick for a guy that went in the 2nd round and has all the tools that Sky Moore does, I think that's a good risk, right? Like from an outside perspective. If I'm another GM and I have, say, somebody that has multiple late picks, hell, I'll give up one of those to see if this guy can succeed in our offense. Wouldn't you?
I think the only way you do that though is they have to. You do think that they have to have something there, because we discussed this time and time again. Sometimes you look the part, but you just can't get it done at the NFL level. And so far, Sky has not exactly proven on film that he can get it done at the NFL level. So if you wasn't just enamored with him in the offseason process before the draft, I don't know if you take that
risk.
I
argue with him that Sky does have tape saying that he could do it at the NFL level?
I mean, he's got a few plays.
And here's my thing. Like, first, we talked about special teams. Sky does have some good special team stuff outside of the punt return crap that happened his rookie season. But if you go to, like, his kickoff returns, he's had some very timely, good kickoff returns. In the AFC Championship game against the Bengals.
Wasn't that a punt return? Did he do a punt return versus the Bengals?
Shoot, I don't know. It might have been.
It was a punt return.
And then there was a good one in the Super Bowl, I think, too, against the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, that was Tony.
That was Kadarius Toney.
But there's a couple that he has on tape. But here's what I was saying. From what Sky Moore does, being the guy that catches a quick pass and creates after, I think you could probably go find, as a few snaps the Sky's taken, probably. I think you could probably go find those kinds of plays and show that, hey, this guy could be used like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just don't know if I give up a pick. I mean, maybe a 7th rounder.
Yeah, appreciate the 25. I can't
find myself
Peter.
Giving up a mid-round pick.
You guys
for Sky
put some
Moore.
legendaries. Put some legendaries in the chat for Peter. He's the man. Doug, been a member for 22 months. Says go with your gut, Magic Mike. Sky will most likely be on the team. Petty Pat incoming. Great work, guys. Appreciate you, Doug. Petty Pat is incoming. It's going to be a great season. That's another thing. Just Doug didn't say it here, but he kind of put the 2 and 2 together. Do you think Pat likes Scott? I mean, they work out a lot together. I think there's more of a relationship there than people think. Do you think he is that a factor? Like, is Pat comfortable with him to an extent to where it's like, hey, if he has to come in here, he knows the offense. And the thing about it is, their chemistry's been ass, right? Like, we know that Patrick Mahomes does not throw catchable balls to Sky Moore, and we obviously, I kind of doubt it's because Pat just goes crazy every time he throws to Sky. Maybe it's something off with the routes. Maybe timing's bad. I don't know. But do you think that if Pat got to pick number 6 there, who do you think Pat would take? Do you think he goes with a new guy that he's not sure about, or do you think he goes with the old tried and true? This is a guy that already knows the offense. I've worked out with him for 3 years now.
What's the point of knowing the offense and working out in 3 years if you're accusing him of being at the wrong spot at the wrong time?
I'm not accusing him. I'm just saying.
If that's true, why do you want him? I mean, you can be comfortable with a guy, but if he's not in the right spot, then it's making you look bad. So I don't know. I don't really know who Pat prefers. He'd probably just prefer 6 tight ends, maybe. I don't know. What do you think? So look, the way it's set up though, with the running backs and the wide receivers back and forth, it's feeling like Andy can't get back to taking 4 tight ends like he liked to do. So it's feeling
wait 1 second. Wait just 1 second. We got a 2-bomb from Casey Lion Squad who literally said exactly what I was going to. He says, how much say do you believe Pat has on the wide receiver room? So, I mean, yeah, I kind of alluded to that one position, but I think just overall, I think Pat probably has a huge say on it, right?
Yeah, it's Pat Mahomes' team. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think that it's – look, Andy and them like Sky Moore to a certain degree. They drafted him. I think they believe in him. I'm not saying just Sky.
I'm just saying in general. So let's just say that there's 5 there we already know that are going to be on the team. Do you think this is a case where Brett and the coaches and everybody, and they just like pull Patrick in there and they're like, hey, brother, we got to come up with this last wide receiver. Who we take?
Yeah, they absolutely have to do that. Players leave franchises over not liking the guys they're throwing to or not getting enough help. Like Pat totally does that. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know what it's going to be. But back to my point before you interrupted it was, do you think that he's not worried so much about that 6th or 7th wide receiver? Do you think maybe he could say, look, scrap the 7th wide receiver. I'd rather have Jake Briningstool. I'd rather have that playmaker here and have a 4th
because we just talked about how they're probably taking 6th, right?
So that's what I'm saying. So we've talked about how they probably can't add to every room. You can't add more running backs on the roster and add more tight ends on the roster and then go ahead and take 7 wide. You've got to cut somewhere. So I'm just saying, would Pat probably rather have a bigger targeted tight end like a Briningstool that can move everywhere? Or would you rather have for example, a Nico Remigio that doesn't even get to play on the offense half the time? I don't know. That's a question you have to ask.
Yeah. I don't know, man. If I had to guess, I think this is the year that Sky does not make this roster. But if he does, I wouldn't pass out or anything. Guys.
It's still hard to say it's any worse than 50-50.
Just prepare yourselves just in case, I think it could be a thing. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, man, it's going to be fun to watch that wide receiver room. Very, very interesting. I don't think there's any outliers that are going to make the team. I don't think that Jason Brownlee or Mac Delena is going to come up there. And I'm going to be honest here. I know a lot of people are high on Elijah Badger, but I think it's a long shot for him too. I think you're kind of looking at probably Tyquan Thornton, Sky Moore, Nico. I think that's probably the 3 that are really battling. I think if I would think that maybe the Chiefs organization thinks that Justin Ross, like when we're talking about Sky Moore, he has to go this year. I think maybe Justin Ross fits that script even better.
Yeah. Yuck Food Tube says, I don't know if Pat has any say on roster moves after his advice to take CEH in 2020 first round. I don't know if Pat suggested for them to take him in the first round. He just said he was his favorite running back that worked out.
Pat was on record saying that they asked him who he wanted right there, and he said Clyde. Go get him.
Right, but did they say first round, or did they ask him just which running back he preferred?
Yes, for that pick.
Okay, but number 2, okay, that's fine. But number 2 is that I've heard throughout the building, though, CEH was the preferred pick by a lot of the coaching staff and even Andy Reid because he reminded him of Brian Westbrook and his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield.
Well, here's my
thing.
So
I don't think that was just all on Pat.
So
though,
obviously
right?
Clyde had a slew of issues, right? Injuries, the PTSD thing. There were a lot of things that really affected Clyde's game.
Yeah.
But I would argue that Clyde also kind of fell into a Sky Moore situation where they don't use him the way that he's supposed to be used.
Clyde, let's just be honest. Clyde's rookie season was good. It was maybe even above good. Mm-hmm. Clyde was a different player after he had that injury. I think there was something to do with that injury that hurt his career. And it
Clyde also, if you go back to his college tape, Clyde was a freaking wide receiver playing the running back position,
and that's why they liked him. But I'm just saying, I think it was the injury.
Did we ever throw to Clyde that much? I mean, let's be honest here. Did we ever throw to Clyde that much? And that's the reason why Pat wanted him to begin with, was because he's this receiving back that just goes nuts, and it's that extra option for him. And, they never used him that way, ever. So that's all I was saying. Did he kind of fall in that situation where it's like he's like a very niche player? Like, this is what he's really good at? And they just don't do it.
To my point,
like they're not versatile enough for the Andy Reid offense.
Clyde was good enough his rookie year to come in and get all that volume and be that good, but then the second year he's just like, I can't play football anymore. I don't know how to do it.
Well, I don't know. I think when Clyde did play in the years after that, he did play at a decent level. It's just that,
but it was nowhere near that rookie level.
No, but I mean, it was patchy, right? Like
he lost his burst.
Game here, game there. Like he'd be hurt for 6 weeks.
Right. He didn't have much burst to begin with, but he lost what he did have. I'm telling you that injury hampered his career. Like it was almost like, not to the same effect, but it was kind of like the Bo Jackson thing, right? Bo Jackson hurts himself and he never could do it anymore, hardly at that high of a level. I do think there was some of that to the Clyde situation. If Clyde didn't get injured there, I think Clyde may have been a decent back here. He could still be the feature back.
Yeah, but I'm just saying from a bigger picture standpoint, if he was used a little bit differently than the way they used him, they brought him in and used him as an every down, beat this back up kind of guy, and he's like a little dude.
But was it his rookie season though? They used him like they used Kareem Hunt during his rookie season, right?
I don't know. I'd be interested to see what kind of receiving work he got.
That's what I'm getting ready to go look, because I'm almost positive he did all that in the first year.
TJ says Sky will leave and succeed. It's hard to create tape when you're never utilized on the football field. So, I mean, there's that too. I mean, Sky's had, a drop or two as a receiver. I think a lot of the stuff that really sticks out in Chiefs Kingdom's mind is the punt returns that he dropped his rookie season, which a terrible, terrible decision by the coaching staff. That's a guy that didn't return punts his entire football career, and you just stuck him out there at the NFL level. That seemed a little odd. But yeah, I mean, honestly, for the 90% of the time that Sky Moore's on the football field, he's just running routes, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're not wrong. There's not a whole lot of tape on the kid because 90% of his playing time, he wasn't part of the play. So, there's that. Peter says they're going to take 6 wide receivers, 4 running backs, 4 tight ends. That's a good possibility. That's kind of where I'm at too, Peter. I think that they might do that too. I think Brenningstoll could get the back end of the roster there on that exchange. Yuck Food Tube says, I remember CH had one good game against the Bills and that fumble against the Ravens. That's all he remembers. CH had a pretty big rookie season, I believe.
CH in 2020 had 39 receptions out of the backfield for 320 yards.
Right, and he could have had more.
So he was used a lot. Let me go look at what Kareem Hunt did his rookie season, just to compare the two. Because we know they used him.
That's the thing that sticks out in my mind to me is just what he did at LSU and then what he did at the Chiefs was not the same. It's like you get this guy because you like this single trait about him or what he can offer, and then you try to put the square peg into the round hole.
Right.
And someone actually made that comparison as a comment on one of our videos. They feel like the Chiefs do that with a lot of their draft picks.
Yeah,
they're trying to take these guys and fit the square peg into the round hole. And I kind of feel that. Like I do think they kind of did that with CEH, and I think that's definitely what happened with Sky Moore. I'm trying to think of some other examples of that. I mean, there are lots of guys that they just never really utilized that they should have, especially if you go back to last season with DeAndre Hopkins on your team, and the amount of targets that DeAndre Hopkins got for what he should have garnered is ridiculous.
So Kareem Hunt's rookie year, he had 56 receptions. So he had about 15 more receptions, about 130, 140 more yards.
And
so, I mean, it wasn't that drastic of a difference. But
what's the difference between those two guys? I feel like that Kareem Hunt was more the guy that should have come in and ran the ball more. I feel like that's completely backwards. And I know that each year is a little bit different. The offense has to be run a little bit different, but I don't know. Well, Brian Parrott, take an extra break. Take an extra break. It's America's birthday tomorrow. You get you a long one.
Kareem Hunt had 283 rushing attempts for 1,369 yards his rookie season. What a year. His rookie year is literally one of the most unmatched running back seasons in maybe Chiefs history. You know what's
wild about that? It just so happened that the same year that Alvin Kamara went nuts. Like, they both went crazy. Because I remember Kamara won Rookie of the Year that year, I think. Even though that Kareem Hunt went that crazy.
In comparison, Clyde had 55 to 60 less attempts. He only had 196 attempts. And he had 875 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, I mean, he wasn't all that horrible.
Yeah.
Again, they used Kareem Hunt a lot more, big time.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about running back usage. I see Chris in the chat wants to talk about that a little bit. That's kind of a good segue to that. But like, how do you think these guys are going to be used this year? Because right now, let's just say, just for conversation's sake, they just have all of them on there, right? Even Carson Steele. There's 5 running backs. What kind of usage do you think is going to be there? I obviously think Isaiah Pacheco is going to be the one. They're going to start Isaiah Pacheco. Kareem Hunt will be there. I think they'll probably, like, usually first series you'll see Pacheco, that you might see Kareem Hunt on the second series, right?
Pacheco is going to go around 10 carries a game. Kareem Hunt's around 7 to 10, and I bet you anything Elijah Mitchell gets
a few,
maybe 10 snaps.
But what about Brashard Smith? Because, I mean, this is a piece that a lot of people think that Andy Reid's going to want to use. But then again, we just talked about how Clyde Edwards-Helaire kind of played a similar role, and they kind of, once again, put him in a different
I mean, it's possible he don't even line up in the backfield a lot. You could put Brashard Smith just way out in formation. The dude was a wide receiver.
You could run him in the slot.
We've already seen him in all these mandatory minicamps. We already seen him lined up outside on the hash mark with Christian Fulton to just burn the dude deep. So
yeah, you can do a lot of things with him.
It's possible he don't even get, he could get 10, 15 snaps a game, but maybe 5 of them come from the running back position. He may be just lined up in the slot or something.
If I had to guess, if every one of them stay healthy, Chris, I'd probably say Pacheco's going to get more carries.
Pacheco's going to be the one, barring injury. But by the end of the year, he's probably going to have an injury the way it's trending.
Potentially. But he also in a contract year, so he's got to win that bad boy. Because whether he gets a contract from the Chiefs or not, he's going to try to get as much money as he can on this.
Still feels like Elijah Mitchell needs to carve out some kind of a role, because right now he's just kind of the lone man out.
I think so. Well,
because even Carson Steele, you could say, has somewhat of a role. Look, if you're like, what does Carson Steele do? I mean, he's pretty decent on short down yardage. So but like Elijah Mitchell, you can't even find that.
Look, a lot of people want to allude back to the fumbles of Carson Steele, and that's why he didn't get as much playing time. And I would almost 100% guarantee you, if you could talk to the coaching staff, the reason why Carson Steele didn't get much playing time after all that was because of pass protection. That guy missed so many pass protection assignments, got Pat hit 15 times.
Yeah, I think
that's
that was
why he didn't play.
Deal.
That's why he didn't play. It wasn't because of the fumbles. If you go watch the fumbles, those were just really good plays by the defense. Carson Steele wasn't really doing anything wrong. He had the ball where it was supposed to be. It was just unfortunate. But there were some blunders on the pass protection. He did not know where to be.
Was it versus the Falcons that he had a pretty bad pass block assignment blown?
There were at least 2 plays last year where Pat got up instantly and started yelling at the kid. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, there were at least 2 of those plays. And I tend to think that's what got him a good permanent spot on the sideline over there, as opposed to the fumbles.
I mean, yeah, you could be right. That has to look, that we've said this. That has to be corrected. We've got to get back to finding a Jerick McKinnon type of guy, a guy that can bring some pass block protection and a guy that can be a danger in the pass game.
Yeah.
So it is just one of those things, man.
A little off subject here, but Kay Wayne says that you need to sing Feliz Cumpleaños.
It's too early, Kay Wayne. I can't do it. It's too early. I don't think anybody wants to hear it. I never know,
like, no one eats at Mexican restaurants more than me and Mike, and we've probably heard that song more than most people on this planet. And I still don't know the words to it. I can tell you like how it goes, but I don't have a clue what they're saying.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the smash.
I can hear it in my head right now. You just waiting to get smashed in the face with the whipped
the face smash, yeah.
Man, I'm getting hungry now. Peter says, who decided not to use Hopkins? And hopefully they'll use the running backs correctly. Man, I don't know. That's going to be a mystery. That's going to be one of those mysteries to me for a long time. It's like, how'd you have DeAndre Hopkins on the team and you only threw to him a handful of times? Like, and the only answer I can give you is who decided not to use Hopkins is Pat. Because Pat wouldn't throw 50-50 balls, and he don't. Because that's what DeAndre Hopkins excels at, right? He wins the man coverage. You throw a 50-50 ball to him, and he comes down with it 90%.
He did it a few times, though. Wasn't the Bucks game that he just threw that like crazy pass and D-Hop come down with it, and you just felt like there was going to be something different there?
Triple coverage.
Yeah, you were like, this is maybe the time that we see this, and it never really happened. There were
a couple times where he threw to DeAndre Hopkins last season, and we were like, okay, now maybe he can see that he can trust DeAndre.
Yeah,
you can throw him these balls and he'll catch them, but he still never did. And I think that kind of plays into what Pat said in the offseason. You know, like as soon as the season was over, it was just like, I've got to give my guys more opportunities. Like I wasn't doing it. That was a huge.
Okay, let me play Pat for just 1 second here and maybe his thought process. Do you think Pat didn't want to throw those kinds of balls? Because number one, even the completion I just talked about, that amazing play versus the Bucks, that was dangerous. That could have been picked off, right? Could have been. So do you think Pat, though, gets himself in a position to where that offense is so stagnant at times? And he could, your conservatism may be the reason that it's there, but that's still this like catch-22 circle you got working. But do you think Pat gets to those kind of things where he's like, look, the offense struggles to score points. The defense stays on the field for sometimes way too long at a time. All my players are injured. I'm not getting any good blocks. So do you think maybe he gets conservative because he's just trying to be like, look, we've got to put together a long drive. We've got to get this going. We've got to just chunk. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like he's afraid to make the mistake because he knows the offense is already out there like 3 and out and 60% of the time. So like when you add those quick mistakes, you've seen that in the Super Bowl, how quickly that piled up when he threw those 2 picks.
Right. Well,
that went bad quick.
Here's what I'm going to say about that and interceptions in general. I want Pat to throw more interceptions because that means he's throwing the football. Like, Steve, let's be honest here.
Take that back.
If you go back, no, and obviously
take that back.
I don't mean it the way that you're taking it, but here's my point. His highest interception percentage in his career was 2023, and that's when he had those terrible receivers and they were bobbling the ball to the other team, right? We saw at least 15 of those that year.
It was the Kadarius Toney bobble fest.
Yes, a 2.3% interception rate. Do you know what? And then by far, the other one was 2.1%. And guess what year that was? 2018 when he threw for 5,100 yards and 50 touchdowns. Throw the freaking football, brother. I don't care if you get a few more interceptions, if you get way more touchdowns. Like, his success rate is going to be way higher if he takes more shots. This last year, he went 1.9%. As conservative as he was only 0.4% less in interception rate than he was with the year with Kadarius Toney in them. So, yeah, go ahead, be gun shy and have a stagnant-ass offense.
Yeah.
Or you could just throw the football and go for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. No one cares about your interceptions at that point. Unless you throw 51 interceptions, no one cares.
Yeah, I agree. But I think a lot of that has to do with the guys he was comfortable with doing that. Hollywood wasn't there. Rashee Rice, not there. Xavier Worthy still kind of learning the ropes.
Well, that's my problem, and I get it. I understand all that, and I'm not shading Pat for being in that position because he had no help the last few years with receivers. They gave him the worst receiving room I've ever seen in 2023, and he had to polish turds and make something out of nothing.
Who was
pull rabbits out of hats.
MVS, yes. Justin Watson, and like Richie James,
Toney.
bro.
Kadarius Toney.
And Kadarius Toney. And Sky Moore. Listen to this receiver room.
It was awful. It was terrible. So I understand.
Tom Brady couldn't have won with that receiver room.
No, he couldn't. And here's the thing about it. Like, people can say that that's why Pat got that way. That's why he got gun shy. And maybe it was the organization that got Pat into this funk by doing that in 2023. And I wouldn't argue that. But what I will say is, from like the other point of view, like, I'm sorry, Patrick, but that's what you have. You still got to throw the damn football.
Yeah.
Let it go. I mean, if there's interceptions, there's interceptions, but you've got to throw it. You've got to give you guys chances.
We kind of said that, didn't we? We were like, why is he just not doing it out of spite?
Exactly. But not only did we say that, he said that himself. Right.
But
right after the Super Bowl, they were talking about this last season. He said, looking at it in a whole, I didn't give any of my guys chances. I was not throwing the football.
If they think you can win with mediocre talent and water boys, then go out there and throw the same balls you would be throwing, and then you go to the film room when you have 17 picks and you say he's not in the right spot.
But I think naturally it got in his head. He lost some trust with receivers. When he was throwing good balls to Kadarius Toney and some of the other guys, and they were just bobbling them to the other team, bro. Like, we've seen that so many times. Tyreek Hill used to do that to him.
That's frustrating for Mahomes. But at the end of the day, though, the coaches cannot hold that against you. And I don't think Pat would hold that against himself. Right? No. So you got to keep
Andy
throwing
Reid's really big.
then,
Andy Reid's really big on, get out there and sling. Like, every time there's an interception, if you ever see like a sideline conversation after an interception, 9 out of 10 times Andy Reid's walking over there and being like, don't let that bother you. You have to throw the ball. Every time.
Well, yeah, usually the guy that makes the mistakes, they'll go right back to him.
Yeah. So I just think it's a matter of that. And I think this year, maybe with the receivers that we do have, maybe Pat can get out of that shell a little bit and let it fly.
He needs to, man. I would love to see it.
Let it fly. Let it rip.
Oh, God. You said let it fly. You're about to
Let's go.
To bring in the Eagles fans. It's like the bat Eagles signal. If you just use the word fly.
The only eagle I want to see flying is that bald eagle tomorrow on America's birthday, bro.
Bald eagle.
Rock flagging eagle. Let's go. Hey, it's America's birthday, guys. Hope you guys have a good 4th of July with your family. Be safe. Don't be blowing your hands off like Jason Pierre Paint. What's his name? Paul? St. Paul? Pierre Paul. Jason Pierre Paul blew his hand off.
Jason Sierra? What a weird name.
I was trying to remember his name. I just know that he lost some fingers to a firework, and you can too. So be careful out there. My suggestion is just go watch a fireworks show and don't do it yourself. That's always my go-to.
Or don't drink and do fireworks. That's a bad one.
Hey, it happens to the best of them. We used to chase each other with Roman candles, Mike. So, well, things happen. But yeah, enjoy the holiday, guys. Hopefully you have a great holiday weekend. It's kind of cool that it falls on Friday this year. So, have a good holiday weekend and all that good stuff. And we'll be back with more Chiefs content. We got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of editing to do. So a lot of work for me ahead. We just had a video come out yesterday. Mike came out with a video a little bit different than what we normally do, but it was him kind of talking about Patrick Mahomes getting shade for stuff that Tom Brady was getting praised for by the sports media. And he kind of showed the hypocrisy there. I thought that was a good video. If you haven't watched that one yet, go click it and watch it. You'll see Pat and Tom Brady on the thumbnail. And then we had another video earlier this week with Chiefs offensive lineman Joe Lombard. Great conversation with him. You get a really good perspective of kind of how these players that are fighting to make the roster see things. And, how it is going from being a college football player to stepping on the football field with Patrick Mahomes and some of those big, huge famous guys, you know, just high caliber football players. So it was a really cool conversation. If you didn't see that one, you need to go back and watch that video. I think that one came out on Tuesday. So you need to check that one out for sure. Don't want to miss it. But yeah, man, appreciate you all being here. Do us a favor, hit that like button on the way out if you haven't. That helps your boys out. Also, members only live stream. We'll be doing it. I think we're going to try to fit it in this weekend. We missed it this last weekend. So the one for June, we're going to do that. And then there'll still be a July one too. So don't think we forgot about you. We're definitely going to have that members only live stream. So that one's coming. Just be on the lookout for all that good stuff. And we'll catch you guys next time. Mikey, anything left for Chiefs Kingdom today?
Nope. Happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday, America. I do appreciate that you didn't cut me off this time. This is the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I was trying to be good. And then just...